Okay, we're officially at 8:30 p.m. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Group. Couple quick announcements, really important. The church bathrooms that we are using over here, we were cut off from our back bathrooms. They want us to go back to using them. They're back through the clock, make a left, go down the hallway. They've been cleaned for the church services on Sundays, so be mindful not to go in there. The kitchen, that's for people that have a commitment. Please try not to go in the kitchen and don't help yourself to their supplies because they have signs on them and everything. It's all theirs. It's not our stuff. We're here to, it's very hard to get a good facility like this. They're very kind to us and loving, and all they ask is us respect their facility. It's a $7 million facility, and they hand a bunch of alcoholics the keys and say, go ahead. Think about that. I wouldn't, lend an alcoholic my lawnmower and be like, hey, welcome. Beautiful thing about the church here. Be mindful of that. What else I got to admit? I don't know. I'll think of something at the end. Kara's going to come up here and share. Let's have some fun with this.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kara, and I'm an alcoholic. So good to see y'all. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. The purpose of this group is to provide consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is this anyone's first time at this meeting? And would you please raise your hand and introduce yourself? Welcome. Welcome, Megan. Welcome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar at the table marked Big Book and CD donations. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or any home group member before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. Now I'd like to bring Sherry up to read the preamble.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I'm an alcoholic. Hello. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We're self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I've asked Andrew to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Hi, my name's Andrew and I'm an alcoholic. And these are the AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Number 1, we admitted that we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
The seventh tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no fees, dues, or fees, but have expenses. The group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to provide distractions. Now, I would like to introduce a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, Jack D. from California/Maryland. Let's all give him a warm welcome, y'all. Woo!
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jack Devlin. I'm an alcoholic. I am not from California. I lived there for a little while, but I currently live in Baltimore, Maryland. My home group is called The Firing Line. We meet Tuesday nights in northern Baltimore City at 7 p.m. We are a meeting based in the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous, named Alcoholics Anonymous. The last Tuesday of every month, we have a 1-hour speaker meeting. And I am a card-carrying, really excited, happy, proud member of that home group. I really feel it's an honor to be a part of that group. That's how I feel. And just to be clear, I used to hear people say stuff like that when I got here, and I just thought they were a little funny or a little weird or maybe just a little lame, maybe just a little boring, you know, that like their life had come to a place where they were really excited to be a member of a home group. Just like there's got to be something more to life than a cool home group, man, you know? But thank you, honey. But I didn't, you know, but I hadn't had an experience here. It's like anything else in my life. You know, I don't know much about much, period. That's a complete statement. And I really don't know much about anything that I haven't experienced. And Alcoholics Anonymous is one of those places where I was here for a while, and a lot of things looked a certain way and felt a certain way inside of me. And until I really had an experience with Alcoholics Anonymous, it was a really hard place for me to stay. It just was. It was incredibly uncomfortable. It was incredibly loud inside of my mind. It was just a really painful existence for me to be sober. And I didn't have words for that for a long time, because it's just how I felt. It's just how I lived, you know, for many, many years. So I feel really fortunate to have been shown a pathway to power here. Have been shown a way to exist that isn't perfect by any stretch of the word, really nowhere near, but that is relatively comfortable and contented and rather awesome a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of time. Life's pretty vibrant these days, which is really cool. It's very bright. The colors are real. Emotions are alive. Love is in my life. Other people's lives are entangled and intertwined with mine. This is not how I came here. I had broken, disheveled relationships and crashed cars and court cases, and I mean, my life was a wreck. Not that some of those things aren't also currently in my life, which we may circle back to, but for the most part, a lot of that stuff stopped when I got here. For me, well, everything except the court case stopped when I got here. I didn't really crash any cars. My life really kind of straightened out, but what started to happen to me over time is that I started to feel incredibly uncomfortable internally, and I wasn't all right. And I didn't realize that what I was sitting in was a room that was pointing at the solution to my problem that was inside of me while I was not drinking. And thank God that's what those do. Because if they didn't, I can't stay here. I can't stay sober. That's the whole reason that I need them. But I didn't know that for a long time. So before I say anything about my story and my experience and my whatever, I just want to say thank you to Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole, for an experience that has allowed me to live a life that is actually, it's more than worth living. It's a joy to be a part of it. So any of you that are carrying a message, that are willing to help, that are of service here or anywhere in your community, in any way, shape, or form, thank you. Because there's people like myself that may be sitting right next to you that have no idea where they are and what they're sitting next to. And the men that took the time to tell me, they weren't in any very roundabout way, in a very direct way, exactly what they had and what they had done and how they felt and were living now, saved my life, allowed my mother to not bury her youngest son, which she was convinced was going to happen for a while, for years. Every phone call that came in was a eruption in the household. Allowed me to become a married man and have a partner with a wife now who's here with us tonight. You guys got to hear, she was here a few months ago. If you haven't heard that, you should stop listening now, go get her CD and go put it in the car. You're much better talk than mine, I guaranteed. But anyway, so thank you. And it's really cool to be back here and more importantly than being here or being anywhere. It's funny, I was talking to my friend Tim before the meeting, and the past few days have been really busy and just kind of full. I've been all over the place, and from Maryland to Virginia to up in New Jersey to now we're in Doylestown. But the reality is, life is just full. Like, something has happened here to where what is available is a completely new life. It doesn't mean you're getting a new wife, new kids, new parents, but like from the inside out, your life truly can become what's mentioned in the doctor's opinion as recreated. It doesn't mean that you get to just start throwing people out and changing your phone number and ignoring. That's not what I mean. But that there can be a total recreation of the way that we live. That's been my experience. And to be totally honest, in a 9-year time, it's happened twice. It happened when I came back in 2012, which is when I've been sober since this time, August of 2012. And then it has been happening for the last 3 years, since the fall of 2018, when I went back to the steps at 6 years sober, completely off my rocker, out of my ever-loving mind. Incredibly sober, looking for everything possible to fill a void that was unfillable. Convinced I was doing okay, carrying a big book, trying to help people. So, but I didn't get to AA because I was carrying a big book, trying to help people, trying to fill a void. I came to AA because my life came to a point where I knew I needed to stop drinking and doing what I was doing, and I physically couldn't, no matter how bad I wanted to or tried. I just couldn't. I'd get weeks, I'd get months, I'd get days, I'd get heres, I'd get theres, I'd get nears, and I'd just fail every time. So eventually I go somewhere that separates me from alcohol physically, which is what I thought. Like, Alcoholics Anonymous' main goal was. I really did. Like, that's just kind of what I always thought. AA is like, you know, that's where you're going to get physically sober and stay physically sober, which is totally true, obviously. It's really hard to be sober while you're drinking, right? Like, that's a tricky one to pull off. Some of us have tried, you know. Hard one to really make happen. But what I didn't understand until I went somewhere and got physically separated from alcohol was that as I stayed sober for weeks and months, something started to happen inside of my chest and inside of my mind that was rather uncomfortable. You know? This kind of just slow grind inside of me. That just this thing started to become a little bit irritating. You know? Or just a little bit much. Where you just became wrong, you know? And like 4 days before that, I thought you were a wonderful human being. But like so quickly, you just became not, you know? And I don't really know what you did, but now you just suck. And it's not your fault, you just suck. It's okay. And I know that if I take a couple of drinks, you don't suck anymore. I love you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, I know that somewhere inside, but I'm not saying that. I'm just sitting in rooms. Because I came to you guys at 23 years old in June of 2010 with a trash bag and a duffel bag, waiting on the results of a Hep C test and an HIV test. That's what I had done to my life by 23. That's what I had done. I was done. I already had DUI, I already crashed cars, I already been locked, I had thrown away everything. My parents gave me every opportunity in the world. I grew up in a wonderful household. I've been lying, cheating, stealing, and seeking validation since I was 5. And it's got nothing to do with anything except for how uncomfortable I am in my own life. Nothing else to point at. Anyone can point at wherever they want. I point nowhere but inside because I know I'm a whack job from day one and it's no one's fault. I'm just a little weirdo. Well, if you tell me I'm not, I feel good for 9 seconds. And I do whatever I can to feel good for 9 seconds for the next 19 years, you know? But that's what I brought you guys. My life was over. The game was up. I'm the type of guy, like it talks about in our book, that at some stage in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a state where like, he can't stop himself. He's beyond human aid. He's unable to control his liquor consumption once he starts drinking. It doesn't say every single time we start drinking, I'm not going to be able to control. It doesn't say every time, but I'm going to cross this line where there's going to be times, and sometimes they're going to happen for me, that I crossed that line the first time I ever got really drunk. There was never another time that I have any recollection of that I drank and controlled and enjoyed my drinking. Never. Didn't happen. I drank to get drunk from the time I was 13 until I stopped 10 years later, period. That's what I did. I don't know why. You know, just because alcoholism and me get along rather well. And I was pretty clear from the get-go. Like, this is it. That sucks. That sober 13-year-old life is not for me. And Jack Daniels is. You know what I mean? And let's do that as often as possible. And obviously it became more often as I got older, right? Because 13 is it's a tricky age to stay drunk too often. But so physically, you know, when I got here, I knew that if I put one drink in me, I wasn't drinking one drink. I never wanted to drink one drink anyway. The only time I ever thought about controlling my drinking is when I ended up at rehab. And they started talking about never being able to drink again forever. And I was like, whoa. Can I just have like 2 beers? You know what I mean? That's the only time I've ever thought about it. I never, and I knew it was a lie. I knew that. So there was no fight in me about that. I drank myself past fight. I want to get drunk. That's why I drink, period. But I knew that when I got here. That was no revelation to me, right? But what was that maybe, which I would come to see over the next couple of years, that I wasn't going to be able to keep myself away from it. That didn't make any sense. I'm madly in love with booze for years, right? I mean, you're talking about what Dr. Bob calls the great panacea for all human ailments. My man, these guys in AA know how to talk about alcohol, man. They know, like they're just talking about literally a cure-all for anything. Exactly what it is. Now, there's a window in there that you hit where it feels that way, and then it feels like knee walking, tongue chewing, vomiting, which is also, some nights totally acceptable. But that feeling of locked in the zone, if I was to get hit by a car right now, I don't even think I'd care. Let alone what they're thinking of me, who I owe money to, where I've been, what I just did to the people that love me. None of this it can't even touch me. It's like everything that worries me throughout my whole life beads up like water and just falls off of me when I'm in that perfect place of the effect produced. And that's the effect that I'm looking for. I'm looking for comfort. I'm looking for nowness. I'm looking for connection. I'm looking for the ability to sit and stand in front of a room of all you people and care not one bit about what you think of me. And what alcohol put me right there, and then made me feel 10 feet tall, and then made me feel invincible. Didn't just get drunk, right? I got better. I got fulfilled. I got wholeness. Alcohol did something to me and for me, really, really, really inside, somewhere that nothing else had ever gone. So at the end of this attempt to try to drink and live in the world and me failing, I end up at a place, I get separated, and I end up somewhere where I get introduced to AA. And then I hear this thing like, you got to ask somebody to sponsor you that has what you want. Which, is a great idea, except for someone like me. Because I will ask the man that drives up the driveway in the Corvette to sponsor me, which is exactly what I did. This man has exactly what I want. A life and a nice whip. Let's go. This man's got a car. Which means, if you have a Corvette, you probably got a house, man. You know what I mean? And if you don't, I probably even like you even more. You're driving a vet and you're still paying rent. I get that too. But the man had something that I don't know, what do I want? A spiritual awakening as a result of the 12 steps? That's not what I want when I get here. I want to be able to pay a bill. My story. I want to be able to go back to a family holiday and feel like I fit in. I want to be able to come to a meeting like this and not judge every single person in the room and feel like they're all thinking about me and have to go home and think more about what happened here and why I was that speaker saying that and I was that guy out there and she said the preamble. What's a preamble? Why are you talking about the preamble? Who said pre? What's pre? Who's pre? Man, I used to drive a Prius, crash my Prius, I'm just gone. My mind can't stop, just wham. And it's all I want. It's all I want. I have no idea what I want when I get here. And this time, I was approached by those in whom the problem had been solved. I was. And I feel really fortunate for that too. I got this sponsor and I'm so scared, man. We start doing step work and this guy's asking me questions like, hey Jack, how are you doing? And it's it really depends on the time of day and the time of week. But how you doing? Good. I'm sober, and I'm happy that I'm sober. Right? Is what I should have said. I'm just trying to be that's what you want me to say, right, man? That's my whole life, has been just, let's present this thing, and then maybe that will become real. My whole life has been a sham. That's the reality. I have never been transparent with much of anyone, and that didn't just change because you removed alcohol. If anything, it got worse. I was just oh my, the only time I ever was transparent was a half a fifth deep. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Some weird stuff happened when I was in 4th grade, man. You want to hear about it? Sitting at the bar next to some guy just what? Leave me alone. Can you find me cocaine? What? Who are you? Leave me alone. Give me $20. You know what I mean? Just I don't. But then I come to AA and it's how you doing? I'm great. I'm just happy to be here. What's up with you? What's your name? Just I just asked you how you were doing. Yeah, I'm just happy. That's all. Can't you tell? I can't bear to be anywhere. So I sit there and I try to, and I talk to this sponsor man and I'm answering his questions and I'm doing this stuff, and the whole time I am getting sicker inside. My experience, this is how I felt. As though my mind got louder, my chest got tighter, and my life became unbearable inside. And eventually, 26 months later, after going to 767 meetings in a row, I didn't miss a meeting a day for over 2 years. I found myself driving north on 95 from Harford County up to somewhere where I could get not sober. Sobriety itself drove me, literally drove me. Sobriety itself drove me out of sobriety. This is something that made no sense to me until I experienced it. One of the many things. When I got here, for some reason, I couldn't connect those dots. I don't know why. I'm not here to pontificate about why or try to speculate. I have no idea. But sobriety being my biggest problem didn't make any sense to me as I sat here for 2 years. And I was in the middle of feeling terrible while I was sober. But I heard people talk about a spiritual malady and how they're irritable, restless, and discontent, and then they get ease and comfort, and I didn't know what they were talking about. I thought they were talking that everything here was about while I was drinking or amidst my drinking. And in this experience of being here for 26 months, and I mean like sober, like I meeting a day, halfway house for like a year, like not even a relationship, nothing, man. I didn't even have a cell phone or a car for the first year. I was just walking to meetings and trying to march to the beat of the AA drum. Now, if you'd asked me what Alcoholics Anonymous is then, and you'd asked me now, I'd give you two very different answers. I could say that. I was trying to march to the drum of what I heard at a meeting. That's the truth, which is great. For a period of time. For me, it wasn't sufficient, though, to keep me here. Because what happens to me happens inside of my brain and inside my whole, it really feels like in my soul. That's what it feels like. It feels like somewhere that I can't even adequately talk about because I don't even know where it is. I just know what it feels like. You talk about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I can't define those words, but I know exactly what they mean, if that makes sense, right? Like, I know what that's like. I can't give you the words. I don't know. But I know that not only did I feel that way when I got here, but as I stayed here not getting better, I started to feel the same way again. And eventually, I was driven, right? And I love that word. Because driven is not a choice. Driven isn't choosing. Driven is being driven. You're in the back seat. You're not the driver. You are being driven. Right? So I was driven by my sober state of mind and feeling and existence to go get not sober when all I wanted to do was stay sober. This is a bizarre experience for a man that wants to stay sober and thinks that he can, but really knows in his heart that he wants to. And that's why I think in our book where it says that, they know in their heart they have no good explanation, satisfactory reason. Not in their mind. I got 1,000 in my brain. I don't care about them. They mean nothing. They're from the same place that just convinced me why to go do it. Don't trust that place. But in my heart, I don't really know why I do it. Now I do. It's very clear. Alcoholism, right? Alcoholism, alive and well once the alcohol has been removed, drives me to drink again, and if it didn't, I wouldn't be in AA. That's a fact. I would remove the alcohol and sit at home and hang out and be happy. Not my story. So I had this experience, and I bounced in and out for whatever, I don't know, a week, a couple 24-hour tips here and there. I come back in, and I have like 4 days sober. I'm working at a ShopRite, and in the produce department, I'm in the freezer, doing an order, and someone sends me a speaker tape. Thank God for speaker tapes, man. Just for me, again, my own experience is just that, someone sent me a speaker tape, and for some reason that day, that tape, that man broke through everything I thought I knew about alcoholism and about Alcoholics Anonymous. And in about 8 minutes explained to me exactly what had just happened, what had been happening for the last 10 years, and why I was never going to be okay if I didn't work the steps, if I suffered from what he suffered from, which I knew in about 10 minutes that I did. And I never saw him. I had never met him. All I did was hear him. But I knew what he had is what I had. And how he felt when he was sober is how I felt. And that was why I just left my home group, even though I had a girlfriend that was a year more sober than me, and a dog and a job, and went to a meeting every day. He helped me see that there was something, all those things are great, but that I need an experience that transcends them all also. That allows me to walk through life with and without those things. That is actually going to make me comfortably sober, which are two words that didn't go in a sentence for me, ever, until not that long ago. So I get exposed to a message that was really powerful. And it was just because it spoke straight into my heart. I don't know, you guys have been places or in meetings or heard a tape or whatever it might be, even just sitting in a room. And you can feel the language of the heart, like the heart communicates to the heart, that type of experience. It's still with me 9 years later. I actually was just spending some time with one of these guys. Me and my wife just spent the night at his house last night, which is just hilarious. It's also because I'm weird, and not that long after I heard him, I start stalking him, then I get to know him, then we befriend him. You know what I'm saying? But that's also but I also knew, man, I needed to find my tribe. I knew that, not that, listen, I love Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole, and I'm grateful to be a member of it. But when I connect to someone in my heart that quickly, it became very I want to be around you people, man. I want to be, and if you really know what that feels like you just said you do, I would like to know you for as long as I can. Because I don't know that I've ever met anyone that understands what I felt like, and we've never even met. You're talking on a whole nother level. And then for the rest of for the next 50 minutes, we're talking about, I'm listening to why the 12 steps will treat the internal condition that is driving my mind to convince me to drink again. And I said, man, I need to work the steps. Well, there we go. And I had never had that experience before. So what I do, because I'm really, really, really smart, I'm just such a real ego-driven genius that for the next 5 years, I go through the first 8 steps with 5 different sponsors. And I skip the amends process, and I kind of tap step 10 on its head because I still get to talk about me in that one. I don't really do 11, and I just start working with others, and I have no idea how to practice any principle. So I don't know if you guys can tell how this story ends, but not so well. It ends with me, standing places like this, talking about stuff I'm not doing. That's the truth. It ends up with me trying to sound and again present something that just isn't real. That if I'd invited you to the house or where I was living at the time, you couldn't have come and looked at everything. Now, I would love for you guys to come over. Me and my wife actually just got a house somehow, and we would love to have you there. But for years here, my work life was a scam, and I was a sham. That's the truth. And because I'm so driven by fear and the need to get 8 seconds of validation that I will do anything to feel okay when my condition is left unchecked. And if I'm not, again, just my experience as I've seen it, as far as I've seen it, which is not very far, clear on that, if I'm not taking some pretty specific and consistent actions, I can get in pretty big trouble pretty quickly. I get real weird real fast is another way to say it, And I'm treating human beings like bottles of alcohol. And I'm treating money like a drink. And I'm drinking everything. Just put it in front of me. Please help me. I'm that insatiable beast and nothing is enough. And I end up moving out to the West Coast, to California, which is why that was alluded to, because at one point anyway, I moved out west. I lived there for 3 or 4 years, and I sold and sacrificed every principle, pretty much every one that Alcoholics Anonymous is based on, in, and around, for money, sex, and validation. That's the truth. If we're just going to say it for the sake of brevity and simplicity. And I did it all under the guise of helping people and being single and having conversations before engaging in certain things, and not having any arbiters of my conduct. And every action that I took, I had some line of defense. I had something to roll out behind it or in front of it or with it to make it okay. To who? Again, I'm really not so sure, except for to my own delusional mind. Because like even those that were convinced at the beginning were no longer convinced at the end. And so from years like 3 to 6, I go on a tear. Really. But the entirety of my first 6 years sober was spent with some really sad conduct with the opposite sex in and out of the rooms in AA. That's the truth for me, is that it was just sad and incredibly selfish and incredibly dishonest. And I was terrified to get honest about it, And I would here and there, and someone would tell me something to do, and I wouldn't do it. And someone would say something else, and I'd do that for like a week and a half. But I was just so driven to do what I wanted and be who I wanted and get what I wanted. There's no stopping the self-will run riot, right? Like there's only one. Our book is clear. Like there's one thing that makes that possible. That's a 3-letter word that starts with G. That's all we got, man. There's no sponsor stopping that. There's no, there's going to be a divine experience or there's not. And, because even in the pain that was caused by all those actions that I took and the people that I hurt and the woman that I'm now married to that for 18 months had to deal with me being a complete, just a sham of a boyfriend that would stay for 4 months and then leave, and then 6 months and then leave, and then 2 months and then leave. In all that, eventually what was cultivated was enough brokenness for something to be reborn. And this is why Alcoholics Anonymous is the most badass place on earth. Because from that, just cracked open mess of a life, can this little weird journey start to get formed again after already being here 6 years. That's my story, man. And I don't want anybody else's anymore. I don't care how long you've been sober. I don't care where you live. I don't care what you do. I don't want your wife. I don't want your life, man. I want the life that I am living today. And that is such a cool feeling, man. That is such a cool feeling, because my whole life I wanted to feel how you looked. And I wanted what you had. And that's not the deal anymore. And man, and I can't do that for myself, of myself, by myself, to myself. I wanted to, but I can't. What I bring to the table is 6 years sober, and I leave my now wife at the time we were dating for the third time in whatever, a year and a half, and I come back. And she fortunately had gotten really quiet, and over the course of me being gone, basically it was just like, Jack, I can't be with you the man that you are. It's just not going to happen, and I don't really know what to say, but I'm willing to talk to you if you want to call. And I called her, and we chatted for a little bit, and eventually I started to say things like, Cleo, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm living in LA. I have a brand new car. I'm oceanfront. We're right down from Venice Beach. I'm everywhere. I'm flying my parents. Everything outside that I think I've ever wanted, I now have. Then I'm dying. And I know that I love you, and I can't stay with you. And I'm just at a loss. And as she tells the story, she had no plan during this conversation to say what she ended up saying. She actually had a lot of well-meaning people tell her not to say what she was going to say. And I'm really glad she didn't listen to them, because we wouldn't be right here right now. Guarantee you that. At least not in the same way. And like I just said, no other way this story is getting told but the way it's getting told. And she said, do you want me to tell you what I see? And you know everything inside of me is like, no! But this little pathetic, terrified yes just kind of dribbled out of the left side of my mouth. It was okay. You know, I guess so. And she started to very lovingly, but very honestly and very directly lay out all the ways in which my life was a complete lie. And one of the lines that she said that I'll never forget is like, you're so blocked off from your own heart that even the people that you love can no longer feel it or experience it anymore. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to tell you I know exactly what she meant. The feeling was more just like, oh my God. Just this feeling of like, how do you even know that? Who are you to, like, it was just, again, one of those times where it wasn't even about the words that were said. It was this communication that just went somewhere else. You know? And within a week or two, you know, I was back in touch with some people who had tried to help me years before. And a week after that, I had a written inventory after calling this man that tried to sponsor me like 4 or 5 years prior. And when I say he tried to, I mean he tried, and I didn't let him. Because once we got to amends, I started skating, and once we got to 10 steps, I would bring him some of my conduct, and he would say things like, Jack, you're using members of your community like alcohol bottles with legs. And I would just say, okay, well, if you're going to be that honest with me, I'm never going to call you again. You know, like I had no desire to talk to anyone that was going to be that honest with me. There's no way, man. Like, you can talk to somebody, bro. I'm sure you got some guys that want to march to the beat of your drum, chief, but it ain't me. I'm going to go kill myself for 4 years and then show back up on your doorstep. See you later. You know, which is literally exactly what happened. And he knew. He talks about, my sponsor says sometimes, Jack, the only thing that you can do is watch these men that you love walk into the buzzsaw and just be there with a bucket and a mop and help them sop up what comes out on the other side. And it's just like, man. And again, you know, like, not from a place of judgment, just from a place of, I understand what it's like to just, you're being driven, man. There ain't no, I can say everything I want. If you don't do what's here to be done, I don't know what you're gonna do. I can tell you some of the stuff I did. Terrible. So there was a lot of stuff that needed to change in my whole work life was dishonest. You know, I was committing health insurance fraud. You know, I was living a lie. I hadn't been like a real son, or I was far gone in a lot of areas. And in and out of establishments I had no business being in, whether they be gambling places or other places, just no business. Again, my experience. And I showed back up. I actually came back to New Jersey for a weekend conference that we're going to be at in 2 weeks, which is really awesome, 3 years ago. And it's just crazy to think about flying back there that year and like what has happened in the last 3 years. It's just, it is insane. Man, I've been stopped a couple times dead in my tracks since I've been standing up here tonight. And I'm really grateful for that. Because it's like, this power and this love is so real. And sometimes it takes doing something that I don't want to do on a night when I don't want to do it in a place that's not where I want to be be reminded so clearly exactly where I am. And I'm just like in the palm of a power that is on a path that is just so incredible. So I fly back to this conference and I meet this guy there a day before, and I have a written inventory, and I go in and I do my fifth step and we get done, and I go and do 6 and 7, and I'm just begging on my knees looking at the Atlantic Ocean, just begging for God to change me, because I have so clear at this point in my life that if I try to change me or work on me or fix me, that I will continue to do to me what I have just done to me, because I left Maryland to go make something of myself. All you people in Bel Air think you got to stay in Maryland and work at your little halfway house, and I'm going to finally show you, no, we're going to LA, we're going to make it, we're going to get stuff, we're going to fly it, we're going to be somebody. I seen what and I just blew my everything up, and I was dying. And my sponsor made a couple things really clear coming out of there. One was that the next 2 steps were really, really pivotal. And that if I truly wanted to be a changed man, I was going to have to go clean up what I had done as the man that I had been. And the consideration was offered that until I did that, that would never happen to me, because it hadn't. And it was the one major piece of this process that I really had never availed myself to. I mean, when you say direct, like, what do you mean by direct? And when you say all twice in the A step, what do you mean by all? 2 times. You know what I mean? Like, my sponsor says, well, Jack, they mean at least better than half. Just like, you got me there, you know? I'm looking at, like, the first time I made about 8 out of 80. 10% ain't all, you know? And I got all the what's left from that, which is federal charges and a broken home life and a ruined life at 6 years sober. So it was really clear that the steps didn't end after 5, right? And why do I slow down after 5, 6, and 7? Because guess who feels better after 5, 6, and 7? Guess who starts to get some relief, right? Guess who the steps are all still about? 9 is when I actually finally have to go see someone else besides my sponsor. You know what I'm saying? Now I have to actually go face y'all? I'd rather not. I would like to go help some people, sure. Y'all want to listen? Let's go. But as far as admitting my wrongs, paying who back? What money? From when? You talking about how long ago? You're crazy. You know what I mean? You guys are on some, I don't know where you even came up with this. Let's really, we're going pre-1930s. It might be outdated. You know what I mean? Like, the times have changed, you know. I can live my way into making these amends now by just not doing that. And fortunately, my sponsor was able to just say, to everything that I even thought before I even said it out loud, Jack, how has that worked so far? And I had nothing to offer in return. I had finally gotten everything I thought I wanted and still wanted to put a bullet in my head, but was too scared to do anything except for act like everything was okay. So I came crawling back to you guys again. So it was clear as day. Then it just became, how am I going to make direct amends? And his answer was, Sunday when you leave here. So you got a couple in Philly and you're going to be driving right through there. And I was just like, you know, and it was like, okay. And that's what happened, you know. And this past Sunday, you know, I also saw somebody in the last 3 years have been riddled with and full of different experiences within the 9th step. Because the amount of harm that I've caused and the amount of people that I've seen and the amount of places that I've gone, it has taken 3 years to get to where I've gotten, and it will take more years to continue going. You know? I'm talking about just direct amends conversations and then trying to get a plan of action to follow up on. You know? I don't know that I can ever fully right what I did to my mother. You know? I don't know that I can ever fully right what I did to certain people in the world, to Cleo. You know, it's not like one conversation fixes leaving and having her terrified about where we're going to be or who we're going to see. Then she has to move back to Maryland, a place where my conduct was atrocious, and start going to meetings with other women where she knows there was trespassing on my part. This is not fair to her. And no one conversation fixes that. How do you do that, you know? I wish I had a better answer than God makes that possible, because that's what's happened. That's what has happened. We live in that community. We thrive in that community. We are a part of that community. She is friends with people. It's almost just like, this is an experience you must not miss. You know, it's also true about the 9th step. It's true about the whole thing. But really finally getting free and being able to make some stuff right and be transformed is a powerful, powerful thing. And I told you guys that my work life was dishonest, is a really nice way to put it. The reality of what I was doing was I was committing felonies on a regular basis. They call them health insurance fraud in some realms. Where I was operating, they called them the gray area, right? But then once I got honest, it wasn't gray anymore. It's funny how that happens, you know what I'm saying? Just like all of a sudden, I started having spiritual awakening again, and no longer it was gray, it was just black and white. and I was wrong. And it all needed to end, and I was really scared. This is basically what happened. And but there was other people that would be implicated, and I couldn't go turn myself in, you know? know, that was made very clearly. Our book's really clear on that. And thank God for sponsorship. And I knew that, like, that I couldn't just go throw myself on the, you know, be a martyr and try to say, oh, I'm sorry, I did this and this is wrong. Like, you don't get to do that, you know. So what happens is, you know, there's a lot of other people on the list to go see. So I started to go see these people, and many of these people were women who I had been in relationships with from short to long, right? But conduct, the way that I had conducted myself over the years in different people's lives, not treating people with dignity and integrity, not treating people with respect, using people, not showing them the values that I'd been shown, right? Like, not demonstrating anything, talking about a program of action based in spiritual principles, and then acting the complete opposite of that as soon as I walked out of the room, once the doors were closed and the lights were off and it was 10 p.m. So many of the conversations that I needed to go have were of that nature. And so we started going and having them. Because a lot of times these were out of California, they were out of state, and so we traveled together. Because almost overnight I became a committed partner in a relationship. This just kind of felt that way. And so when it was time to travel, I wasn't traveling alone unless I had to. You know, we're going to different Starbucks all over the country. Cleo's sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm going inside to see someone that I've treated very shabbily. You know, and on one of these trips, and just the demonstration from this woman of the word partnership. You know, like, some things I can't do, but I have been shown. And that's a beautiful thing about this place here. So many things I just don't know about and can't do. But many of you somehow continue to show. It's a great verb instead of tell. It's much nicer. And I love it right in the beginning of our book that it's right there. To show other alcoholics precisely how recovered isn't always to do a PowerPoint presentation of the big book. But sometimes it's to show up and to walk next to somebody, even though you're in as much fear, if not more, as they may be, to demonstrate what he can do through you. Man. Whew. And I know how fortunate I am to have a partner that has shown me. And on one of these trips, we're coming through Baltimore, and the FBI show up at my parents' house. 5 agents with an arrest warrant with my name on it. United States of America versus yours truly. And terrifying and confusing. And to make a long story short, you know, we were living in West Los Angeles at the time. And this happened June 25th, 2019, and we've been living in Maryland since June 25th, 2019. So I actually haven't been back to Los Angeles since then. Fortunately, I was able to make right pretty much everything in that city before that happened, which is, again, thank God for sponsorship. It wasn't about waiting, but it was about, you send the approaches and let's see what God sets the time frame as. And I said, all right, bro. Whatever, sponsor man, you know what I mean? You got a way better lease on life than me. Trusting you, dog. You know, I just, like, if I didn't know the answers, like, hey Cleo, can you have a sponsor? Just like anyone, just don't let me make a decision, you know. But what happens is Cleo has to go back to California by herself and move our whole life to Maryland. Cleo has to be the one on the steps of the Newark, New Jersey courthouse to pause and go into prayer and decide whether we're going to live in Maryland or California. You know, because I'm not the decision maker anymore at this point. So you tell me. She got quiet, paused, prayed, and opened her eyes, looked at me, and just said, you know, I think it'd be a lot smarter if we need to be here. Closer to all this, let's just be here. And we've been here ever since. And what's happened is unreal. What's happened is unreal. You know, new home groups have began, and new friendships have been formed, and people that were working with are here, and we ended up getting married, you know, and we just somehow we bought a house. I'm on federal pretrial release, still have not been sentenced. federal pretrial release, requesting permission from the federal probation officer to go to Winchester, Virginia to carry the message last night. And yet October 1 moved into our new home in Baltimore County. Because God's not scared. I am. But He's got a whole plan waiting. And as soon as that ninth step really started firing, some serious events started to take place in our life. And some serious freedom has come. And you ask either one of us, the last 2 years of our life have been the best. Hands down. Hands down. Second to none. The last 2 days. You know, and with all kinds of stuff going on that, you know, would look like whatever. You should feel a certain way. But with the power that's accessible here, with active 12-step work and staying diligent in 10 and bringing stuff to the table and coming in prayer and taking time and continue to walk through that list, even if you get moved across the country, both of us for that matter. We have had to take trips back to Northern California where my wife can walk through amends that are more than anything I could even ever know about. And this is an experience you must not miss. This is an experience that I missed for years while talking about it. This illness is cunning and very, very sneaky and very pervasive. But there is something available here that amidst anything can provide us with real, capital F, freedom. And that is, there is no greater juice than that. And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. The textbook, the people, the meetings, the fellowship, every bit of what those words mean. And thank God for God, and thank you all for letting me share.
Powerful, great talk. Let's thank God for my time. It's like a 3-hour ride, right? Yeah. Our speakers come here at their own time and expense. Please, it's customary for us to form a line, thank our speakers formally. Yeah, again, I can't thank you enough for coming out and sharing that. It's a very powerful message, and the missus, apparently God wanted you on the East Coast and sent Jack to get you, right? This is how it works. He didn't have to do all that work. Anyway, our sister group is a big book study. Meets on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. If you're struggling with anything, struggling with sobriety, not enjoying yourself, come over and see us. The meeting starts at 7:30. We're there at 6:30. And I always like to say we solve all the world problems before the meeting. So if you've got some world problems, bring them over. We always enjoy it. Thanks again. Let's do that nice way of closing. If you care to join us, don't forget the meeting after the meeting. Take a moment of silence. Do it if you like. If you care to join us, one with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us